See this? This is a hat. And a hat is a part of the creative process. And the thing about making stuff is even if you don't have some sort of grand master plan for where it's going to end up or what it's going to do, or even if you do have those things, just getting in the rhythm of cranking stuff out of like it begets its own momentum. So if I make a blog post and I publish it just because I'm trying to learn about the material that I just read, there's value in the fact that one, it's going to help me retain the process and the information, but two, it gets the juices flowing and just gets me some momentum. You publish, you move on, and it clears space in your head. You know, you make a tweet, you make a social media post, you finish something at work, like all those things stack up and create this snowball effect in a sense. This momentum just sort of gets going. So now when you get an idea, you're able to execute it more quickly. Another idea that we got coming out. So, the gift of strength. Open this card up. And what this is will be a referral promotion for our current members. So our current members can give this gift card, the gift of strength, and whoever receives it is going to get 1 free month of Allegiate. We'll probably convert about the same percent that we usually convert on, which is anywhere from high 20s to sometimes 50%, but I bet it'll shake out depending on the location, probably around 30%. It's a great way for us to continue to build a community. December is traditionally slow with fitness. Like, think about it. Who joins a gym in December? Nobody. And so this will be just a nice thing for our members to be able to give, a nice gift for the person to receive, and we can actually track it because I know how many of those go out, right? So, not that much money to be able to produce these things. Kind of win-win-win across the board in terms of members, referrals, and us. And then, connecting back to this idea of, the hat or the blog post or the social media thing, like you just get in this consistent rhythm of making stuff and pushing it out and making stuff and pushing it out and making stuff and pushing it out. And it starts to generate this own flywheel and its own momentum. So if you're sitting back there, if you've been thinking about wanting to make something, if you've been thinking about wanting to do something, like go make your bed, get some momentum, and then you'll be able to just kind of carry that into its own energy and its own space, and stuff's just going to start spinning for you. Is there a theory everything is related? So stuff that happens in home, emotional life, business life, it's all related. And if you have turmoil in one area, that materializes in turmoil in another. Now that I put that out there, I'm not even sure. I don't think that's true. Like, I'm thinking about Elon Musk talking about how, well, maybe if that is the case, how much turmoil he has inside his head. And I guess you do see that materializing in his relationships and things like that, and Twitter. But I mean, the dude is a vicious action taker and maker of things happen. But I feel like there's, for some reason, an East Asian word or philosophy for this. Either the Japanese or the Chinese would probably have some sort of concept for this already figured out, because they usually do with things like that. Like, there's a Japanese word for the inherent creative spirit of a pen or a utensil that you use. Like, there's a word for that. I'm paraphrasing here, but I do know that through some of my research or watching something that's an actual word. Anyways, just like all these things are related. So when you're creating a bunch of stuff, you're publishing a bunch of stuff, you're editing a bunch of stuff, you're training your ass off, and it's all consistent and cohesive. I don't know, you just feel like this fucking machine. You're unstoppable. Then I'm also thinking about The Art of Learning. Amazing book by Josh Waitzkin, who just talks about undulations. Like, for intense ups, you need intense downs. Simple analogy is like athletics and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. maybe a big intense tournament at the highest level of competition, and the instructor that he is training with is napping right before the championship round. It's this raucous auditorium filled with people screaming and chanting, and not the place you would think about taking a nap, and there is his instructor sleeping. And this idea of, you can turn it on in the most intense moments, but then you can also turn it off, and that deep undulation, knowing at kind of the highest levels of performance is key. So that's slightly different than kind of what I'm thinking about right now, right? Because if you just maintain that same level at a super high amount of time, then maybe you just crash eventually. Or like for me, I'll be super into work and everything will be dialed, and then I'll go on, say, a vacation or something. I'll have some drinks and I'll just really relax on one end of the spectrum, just completely relax. And then you come back and it's kind of hard to get back in the rhythm and stuff. So I watched a couple of Sam Sulek's YouTube videos, and he does this when he's just driving to the gym to do an epic bodybuilding workout, and it's just him talking in his car for like, it seems like 20 minutes on his way to the gym. It's pretty amazing. He's just kind of talking about his workouts and the things that he's gonna do and how he's thinking about his hamstring development or something like that. Then he goes off on some tangents. It's really cool because you get an insight immediately into his personality, and you just feel like you're sitting there in the car with him. And at one side it's kind of boring, but the other side it's really entertaining. Which, if this video I make ever makes it live here, it's probably what you're going to experience as well. But it got me thinking, it's almost, because he does no editing, it's just a one take sort of thing. You have to fill the space in a sense, or just be good at consistently talking and entertaining. Almost very similar to an AM radio host. You think about these talk radio guys, and they just go for so long. There's that amazing piece on Radio, I think it is, by David Foster Wallace, and how they're talking about the ability to fill all that space and keep it entertaining for, 3 hours of basically monologues interspersed with some advertisements and stuff. Okay, I'm gonna go, dude. And you kind of have that overlap of media in these long form content things. Like Emma Chamberlain, she does these 30-minute YouTube vlog styles, but she also does a lot of jump cuts. So when it gets bored or she doesn't want to say something, and it's easy to watch. It flows nicely. It kind of does this cool balance of holding the shot long enough, but then if it goes too long, she can just cut it. Where this guy Sam Sulek just doesn't, so it's different approaches, which also goes to make me remind back to that Art of Learning book. At the top, or the path to greatness, there's all sorts of different, he talks about there's all sorts of different routes. There's not one route to getting there, but the commonality between a lot of these people at the top is they all do it in their own inner style. So it's their own inner way of attracting either all the followers or winning the competitions. It's there's two ways to sort of tame a wild horse. One is you can sort of just almost beat it into submission and break its will until it becomes basically your slave. And then the other one is you can harness its inner just by, working with it and talking to it and spending time with the horse, and it gets to know you, you get to know it. And it takes longer, but you establish this bond with the horse, and now it's this almost relationship between the two instead of like a servitude to the master kind of thing. And Josh Waitzkin, the author, talks about how that second way is just how the great performers, like, that's what they do. And so anyways, I'm making a lot of sort of overlaps here,
relating horses, Josh Waitzkin, Emma Chamberlain, Sam Sulek, very across the spectrum in terms of like types of media, but they're all unique in their own senses, to Josh's point, and that there's like at the top, everybody it's channeling and releasing and finding the inner thing that makes you and strengthening that. It's this idea also, I think, came from Peter Drucker of staffing from strengths, of find out, what are your strengths. It's not necessarily about making your weaknesses better. We could do that to a point, but it's like making your strengths even stronger. And Drucker quotes Lincoln talking about Ulysses S. Grant, who was like a notorious alcoholic, as he's gone through all these generals during the Civil War, and Ulysses is just winning. And they're saying, how can he be your general? He's a complete drunk. And Lincoln responds something to the tune of, hey, if I knew where he was going to be all the time, I would send him barrels of booze, because basically he keeps winning. So it's like, sure, he might have this dark side of being an alcoholic, but if we're staffing from strengths here and we're leaning into his strengths, like, dude's winning. Dude's winning games.